Hello and welcome to the Wow Embossing Powder new release giveaway hop. At the top of the description box, you'll find the link to the next person in the lineup. I hope you take the time to watch all the hops on the video because we love your comments and your thumbs up. Today we're going to work on a die cut layered card using 5 of the embossing powders. Now I'm starting with my flower, and the flower is from Altenew. It's called Layered Wood Flower Die Set. And all I'm doing is starting with some basic die cutting using I'm using one flower that is got 2 layers. So I'm using 2 different colors of cardstock. And once that's done, I'm going to be doing the same thing with a few of the leaves that come with this set as well. And then we're going to do some heat embossing with that too. I like to work with the layered flowers and do heat embossing with them. So you can see that I've got everything die cut, and now it's time to do our embossing. So I'm going over cardstock directly with Wow Embossing Pad, which is a nice sticky pad that helps your embossing powder adhere nicely. Now I'm adding the Wow Embossing Powder called In the Navy, which is such a lovely navy embossing powder. And I'm also going to use Ulla's Cognac, and this is such a unique and beautiful color. There's so many different colors in that one embossing powder. So now I've heat embossed those, and I'm going to take those little tiny pieces and add them over the embossing and then die cut them. I like to emboss first and then die cut when it comes to small intricate pieces like these flowers. For me, it's just easier to do it that way, but you could certainly do it however it works for you. So sometimes it does get stuck in the die cut. That's probably the only setback. You have to be careful when you remove it from the die cut that it doesn't tear. But I find it easier to emboss first, die cut second. So now that I have finished with all my layers and my embossing, I'm ready to put my leaves and my flower together. And it's a really simple layered die cut that I think will work perfectly for this card because we have more layers that we're going to be working on as well. So we want the layers to complement each other and not compete. So you can do it like I'm doing it, but you can even emboss each layer of your flower because there's a huge lineup of gorgeous colors that are coming out with this release. And you can get a variety of coordinated colors if you want to emboss each layer. Or you can just emboss the way I've done it, emboss one layer, or you can even take the edge of the flower and dip it into your Wow Embossing Pad just around the edges and then add your embossing powder that way just to give it a little bit of a distressed look. So there's several options that you have here when it comes to embossing flowers. And when you're working with these layered flowers like this, the sky's the limit and it's just so much fun. But I'm keeping it simple here again because we have a lot more layers coming up. See how nice that looks? So now that that's done, we're going to work on the next layers. So we've got die cutting and embossing going on, and we're working with a trio of Wow powders called Pick Me Up. And again, I'm taking my Wow embossing pad, applying it directly to my cardstock. And this is a slow drying pad, so it will stay wet for you a long time. And then we're going to add the embossing powder right over the whole thing. And the first color I'm using is called Earl Grey. And do you see what a gorgeous warm shade of gray that is? Oh, I really love this trio. I think it might be my favorite. So now that that's done, I'm going to set it aside and work on another card panel. Again, I'm going to be taking my Wow embossing pad and applying it directly over my cardstock. And this time I'm going to be using the color called Minty. And again, it's in this trio that's called Pick Me Up. So the Minty is another really beautiful, beautiful pastel shade that really complements the Earl Grey. So I've got 2 card panels that are ready to be heat dried. But I need to do one more because I want to emboss that sentiment hello. So now I'm going to be doing the same thing that I did, repeating the same process. And this time I'm using the color called Punch, and this is the third color in the trio. Do you see how nicely those three colors coordinate in that trio? It's amazing. So now I have heat dried them with my Wow heat tool, and I am ready to go on with the next step, which is to dry emboss and die cut. And again, I did my embossing first, and I'm going to be doing my dry embossing and my die cutting second, because for me, it's just easier this way. So now that everything's done, look at how stunning that is. We have so much texture and color going on. This is going to be a gorgeous card. So what I'm doing here is I love Jennifer McGuire's idea of adding 2 or 3 layers to a sentiment. So I die cut the sentiment hello 3 times, and I'm just layering one on top of the other and putting my colored one on the very top. What this does is gives it some lift and some dimension. So when you put it on your card, it just stands out a little bit more. You can even heat emboss 2 or 3 times to add even more dimension. So while that is drying, now I'm going to add my first layer, which is a heat embossed image called Angled Mosaic, and it's by Altenew, and it's a brand new embossing folder, and it's gorgeous. And so that's on my card base, and I had to cut a little bit down. I had to trim a little bit down on my card base. But now the next thing I'm going to be doing is adding Leaf Frame. It's a cover die by Altenew, and I've had this around for a while, but I haven't used it, and I really thought this would be absolutely perfect to add over that gorgeous embossing folder. And so you kind of have, there's a lot of detail to this die, so you have to go over with your glue quite a bit to get it to adhere. And now I'm just going to place that right over that bottom layer. And do you see how nicely those embossing colors blend together? I'm so excited for this new release. I can't wait for you to see it. So now it's time to finish my card and put the rest of my elements on it. So what I do first is I place everything where I want them before I adhere it down. So when everything's where I want it, I can go ahead and glue it down. And I use liquid glue because it gives me wiggle room to move stuff around. So I just start with my flower, and then I want to add that flower onto foam tape to help it stand up a little bit more, just like that hello die does. And it takes me forever to get this backing off. I don't know about you guys, but I hate trying to pull the backing off of these things, but it's a necessary evil, right, guys, to have a beautiful card. And then I'm ready to put it on my card and add my sentiment. And that's all there is to that. We have several layers going on, texture, several different embossing powders, and look at how beautiful that is. If you aren't already a subscriber, click the little bell so you won't miss any more of my videos. You can also use the hashtag wowembossingpowder to find all the videos on the hop and maximize your chances to win the entire release. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Have a great day.